Welcome back in, party people, to another One Piece poll video. This time, we're here to talk about Zaza. Oh god, what was that? Oh, that must be what it's like for Monkey D. Dragon to turn into the lady known as Zaza. Yes, that is right, you guys. Today, these polls are in regards to the Rain Goddess herself. We got an immaculate reveal in chapter 1182, so with it, we held a lot of polls asking you, the people, what you think about Zaza and who has that damn devil fruit. So with that being said, let's get right to it. Very first poll of the night, but who will have / get the Rain Goddess Zaza devil fruit? Option number 1 on the board is that it will be Monkey D. Dragon's fruit. And as you can tell, this is the fan favorite option by far. Dude, 75% of the votes went to Dragon. We have 12,000 votes on the board, and you're telling me 75% went to Dragon rather than anyone else in the series? That's pretty crazy. You know, here's the thing. I knew that Dragon was going to win this poll already when I was writing it up, but I didn't expect him to have this many damn votes. So, second option on the board, we have Nami and or Vivi. Next up, it could be somebody else that we already know. And if you're wondering how this could work, it could simply be that they're like Luffy, where they think they have one fruit, the Gumma Gumma no Mi, and then of course, final saga shenanigans happen, and boom, welcome to the party. You now have a God Devil fruit. And of course, for the last option, it says that it is simply going to go to a brand new character, like maybe the man marked by flames, maybe even a God Knight, which would be really weird, right? A God Knight with the God Devil fruit, maybe not that, or it might just not have been eaten yet, or it doesn't actually respawn in the world of One Piece. So, time to talk about all these options and how I feel about them. Monkey D. Dragon, it makes sense why he has so many votes. The thing with Dragon is that the longer we wait to get his powers revealed in the story, the higher and higher his expectations go. That is just how it is. It's like Mihawk or Shanks or Akainu who's stuck behind his desk. The longer Oda waits to introduce you into the story as a functioning fighting character who's prominent throughout arcs, the stronger we expect them to be. It's like Loki. If Loki was introduced in Whole Cake Island, oh yeah, he's maybe like Katakuri, Big Mom Kaido level, whatever. But because it took so long to get to Loki, we had high expectations. So that right there is what I expect to be applied to Dragon. We have waited years, 3 decades damn near, for Dragon to actually appear in the story and do something firsthand. He has not done it yet. So why not give him a legendary God Devil fruit? And the funny thing is that the Rain God theories have been around, right? Dragon has always been shown with wind-like abilities. And at Logtown, it was seen that he came in with a thunderstorm. So if we simply twisted it and said, oh, he actually doesn't have a wind logia, instead, it's a Rain God Devil fruit that can control the weather, I think that is a pretty good switcheroo. And ever since we saw that Luffy was the sun god, and that Oda was going down the routes of explaining all the Skypiea gods one by one, yes, people have been saying for a while that Dragon doesn't have a wind logia, but instead it is the Rain God fruit. And now that we have Zaza here, now that we see that Zaza is named after the rain sound effect, the stocks of it being Dragon's fruit have been rising. And you might be wondering why. What does Zaza's name, what did last chapter do to really tip the scales in Dragon's favor? Well, the sound effect we got in this chapter, the Zaza, the rain, the pitter patter, this is going to be a stretch, but hear me out. I think it's grounded in solid logic, but when Dragon was first introduced in chapter, I think it was like 100-ish, I think it might have just been 100 actually, when we saw him in his hood walking through Logtown, of course, it was raining, but not just that, but we had that same rain sound effect playing in that first panel. And because of that, people are saying, oh, there you have it. It's been right in front of us the entire time. With the rain comes the wind. That explains Dragon's powers perfectly. And I'm down for it. I guess if Dragon does have the Zaza Devil Fruit, My one qualm would be, where is the Wind Logia? You know, it's one of those things. The community has rallied behind the Wind Logia Devil Fruit theory for so long that if we really do just toss it to the wayside and give him Zaza's fruit, it's like, okay, now I want somebody else to come in and have the Wind Logia, right? Surely that also exists somewhere. But we will see. So now, as far as the second option goes, Nami and or Vivi, if you're wondering why these are candidates, one, it's because Nami has this weird hidden lineage. We're not saying that Nami has the devil fruit right now, but maybe she is a descendant of the previous Zaza user, and that could explain why Nami has really good weather reading capabilities. It's abnormal. She is literally already the best navigator in the entire world of One Piece. Until we meet more navigators, man, Nami does hold that top spot. Hell, not exactly canon, but it is a movie Oda worked on. In film Strong World, Shiki, a legendary pirate, saw Nami's navigational skills and he said, you know what? We gotta kidnap her. Those skills are just insane. So this could potentially explain why Nami is so gifted. Perhaps it's because she is a descendant of Zaza. And one more thing with Nami as well. But Oda has drawn Nami multiple times with Enel's godlike rings behind her. Of course, Oda likes to play with the idea that Nami has Enel's Rumble no Mi. He even went as far to have an SBS where he's like, yes, if I had to give Nami a fruit, it would be the Lightning Devil Fruit. You could look at that and say, well, Oda has been tossing around the God Fruits with Nami. You know, Oda did give Nami the ring that Enel had. And with the Rain God Devil Fruit, surely Nami could also just summon lightning clouds. I mean, hell, Rain God Devil Fruit mixed with Zeus, that would be absolutely busted. So maybe she gets the Devil Fruit down the road. Maybe she just simply has these powers because she's a descendant. There's a lot of ways you could look at Nami and fit her into Zaza's molding. So as far as Vivi goes, this one is kind of the same mindset. Like, oh, maybe Lily had the Rain Goddess Devil Fruit. Or maybe Alabasta was the land of Zaza. Which sounds a little bit odd because Alabasta is a desert country. But of course, when you rewind time back to the Void Century, was Alabasta always a desert country? Or was it perhaps lush and beautiful, and then after 800 years of war and poverty, boom, it's a desert? And another thing about Vivi is that when we were in Alabasta, dance powder was a pivotal plot point. We learned that the world government banned dance powder because when you use it, what happens? It summons rain clouds. Perhaps there's a deeper history there. Perhaps that's even another reason why the world government banned dance powder in the first place, because it reminded them of Zaza. Or maybe it's a product of Zaza even. And yeah, you know, there's a lot of interesting things with the Vivi route, and this is gonna sound very caveman-esque, but Zaza's pretty much going to be blue. Like, I can't imagine Zaza being any wacky colors, like, oh, she's pink, she's orange, she's red. No. She's definitely going to be blue. And Vivi has blue hair. Yeah, that's not the strongest point out there, but another point too is that in Alabasta, after Luffy defeated Crocodile, and after Vivi stopped the bomb that was about to explode in the courtyard, Vivi thought that the fighting would stop and everybody would lay down their arms, but they did not do that. They kept on fighting. But after Vivi screamed out to the heavens, guess what happened? Guess what ended the war in Alabasta? Rain. It started raining after Vivi did that. Is that a coincidence, or is that a subtle hint that Vivi or Alabasta have a connection to the rain goddess Zaza? So, when it comes to who I'd vote for, I think I would lean towards Dragon. Just because we expect the user of Zaza's Devil Fruit to be a fighter, I say, why not give it a dragon? You know, sorry, I love Nami, I love Vivi, but they're not really fighters in my opinion. I don't think they'd be able to properly utilize Zaza's abilities, so that's why I wouldn't give it to them off rip. But I really do like the idea though. Like, if it's Nami or Vivi, hands up, I'm happy with it. I just err more towards Dragon currently because I feel like he'd be able to put it to really good use. Whereas Nami or Vivi, actually, Nami would be cracked. You know, Nami's the weather woman. She'd be really good with it. Vivi, I don't know. It depends what Zaza can do. I guess it really depends on Zaza's base and general abilities that we'll see next chapter. But it's tough too, again, because the Zaza that we see currently, it is just from Killingham's imagination. So there's a good chance that when we see the real Zaza, they might not have all these abilities, right? It's simply a figment of Killingham's imagination and nightmares that we're witnessing here. But as you can see, as far as the poll dictates, Nami and Vivi are in second place with 16% of the votes. A paltry sum, but better than the next two options. So now, as far as the third option, we already talked about it, but somebody that has a devil fruit currently that is simply misnamed, like Bellamy, for example. Maybe it turns out that Zaza, alongside having rain abilities, she could also use spring attacks. It's possible, right? Sun God Nika. From the name alone, we expect Nika to have fire-based abilities. But guess what Oda did? He said not only does Nika have fire, well, granted, we haven't really seen Luffy with too much fire, but Nika is known for stretching. He can stretch the imagination. He can pull things out of thin air. That is Nika. That's pretty abstract, brother. That is not what I would have guessed Nika could do based off of the descriptor Sun God. So perhaps the Rain God has some wacky abilities on the side that could be somewhat familiar. As far as who are the top candidates right now of characters that we know that could be Zaza, I have no clue. Again, it kind of depends on what we see from Zaza next chapter. Like, perhaps she does whip out snow-based abilities, and we're like, oh my god, that's like Monet from Punk Hazard, but she died. Until we get more of Zaza, this is just the lowest pick. As you can see, it only has 2% of the votes. Hopefully, the people who voted for this option listed who they believe has Zaza's Devil Fruit right now. So now, for the final option here, a brand new character or it's not yet eaten. The not yet eaten part is pretty interesting, of course, because that means we could stumble upon it on the next island. Like, let's say the Straw Hats go to Lodestar, and then boom, we walk by a tree. Oh my god, is that the Rain Goddess Devil Fruit? Let's eat it, boys. You know, the Straw Hats have not seen a Devil Fruit spawn with their own eyes yet. I would love to see how they would react to it. Would they want to give the fruit to one of the crew members? I do wonder. I wonder who would actually step up to the plate and eat it, though. Because we do know that Luffy offered the Maramaro no Mi to Frankie. A really good fruit, mind you. Really great Logia. And Frankie said, nah, I like swimming, man. So, out of the Straw Hats, who would want to eat the Rain God Devil Fruit? I think Nami would. I think Nami definitely would. Like I said, she's just the best candidate out of the Straw Hats to eat it. Because she's great with weather. Oh my god, did you give Nami a weather devil fruit? Busted. Absolutely busted. As far as new character goes, this could be a great way to explain the man marked by flames, because we know that the man marked by flames has the ability to create and summon whirlpools. I'm not a weather expert. By no means. Never said I was. But perhaps you can use rain clouds, lightning, and wind to contort waters to form a whirlpool? Maybe? I'm kind of just throwing things out there. Outside of that, I don't really know any other new characters we could meet that are great candidates for Zaza. Like, I bet we're gonna meet more of Roger's crew, perhaps. Maybe we're gonna meet, I don't know, Shiki, the Golden Lion, more God Knights, and perhaps more characters from the old generation. But I just have no idea who the new character with the Zaza fruit would actually be, minus the man marked by flames. So now, into the comment section, let's see what people are saying about this. Top comment says, so you're telling me, back in Logtown, Zaza smoked Smoker. Oh god. The memes just never end. Yeah, dude, you either smoke the Zaza or the Zaza smokes you. One reason, by the way, why a lot of people did like the Wind Logia fruit more than the Rain God fruit beforehand was simply because Dragon wears green. I know that sounds really goofy, but you know, we got a Kainu with red, he's magma, Kizaru with yellow, he's light, Fujitora with purple, and he's gravity. That doesn't really make sense, but you know, we kind of get the gist of it, right? And then we have Aokiji, he wears blue, ice, you know, Green Bull, which I guess now covers the color green, but Green Bull is the forest guy. But before Green Bull was introduced, green was associated with wind. So it's like, yo, like, he's got to stop wearing green all the time, brother, if that's the case. This comment says, I have two theories. One, Dragon currently has it, and two, Nefertari D. Lily previously had it. Okay, yeah, there's nothing wrong with this whatsoever. You know, these are two very popular theories. you simply combine them, which is perfectly fine, right? It's like Nidhogg. Emu was talking about the previous user of Nidhogg, right? They're a trader. Oh, Ragnar's looking for its new master. Oh, they finally found each other. There's no reason why the Rain God Zaza couldn't belong to Lily in the past. And again, that could tie it perfectly to Alabasta. And then current day, boom, it's now Dragon's Fruit. Yeah, I think this is an easy slam dunk. This is perfect, right? Taking the two best theories out there and just saying, boom, you're now one. I wonder if this is why he's the world's most wanted man? He literally represents their greatest fears. Possibly. But also he is just simply the guy who's currently gunning after the world government. You know, he is the leader of the revolutionary army. Yes, the Rain God Zaza fruit would boost him heavily, but I think the revolutionary leader alone also puts him at that level. So it could be both. Again, there's nothing wrong with combining two popular theories, so that's not a bad idea. This says, the Alabasta arc revolved around rain. It makes the most sense for Vivi to have the power of rain. It rains at the end of the battle with Crocodile, and everyone sees the missing princess. Yes. Yeah, that's what I talked about earlier. And this does beg the question, though, because at that time, right, Vivi did not have a devil fruit. So what are we saying? The powers of Zaza have been passed down from generation to generation, and now current day Vivi has it, but it's like very nerfed, right? Vivi can only summon rain like once a year or something. And again, you know, that ties back to Nami too, right? If we're saying Nami's weather sense relates to Zaza, we're kind of saying the same thing. That yeah, this power is simply being inherited now rather than passed down as a devil fruit. Maybe. The man marked by flames has it since whirlpools sinks ships that approach him. Yep, man marked by flames is a pretty good candidate. And also, speaking of man, what would a hybrid form of Zaza look like if you're a guy? I know that sounds silly, but it is like a legitimate thing. Like, do you turn into like a full-blown woman if you're in full Zoan form? Hybrid form, I can see it being a mix. Like, oh, dragon's face, but he has the hat, he has the extra arms, and it's all watery. Cool. But when you go full Zoan, are you a girl now? Dude, Dragon Mom on the board, huh? We got rid of Croco Mom, but Dragon Mom is steadily approaching. This says, I'll be so pissed if Dragon doesn't have these powers. Like we haven't seen this guy do shit in decades. I'm gonna be honest. I'm okay with Dragon not having them. I know I said I'd vote for Dragon. He's the most likely candidate, but if he doesn't have it and he simply has a Wind Logia, which I do think fits Dragon thematically, because Wind is like the element of pacifists. At least in Avatar: The Last Airbender it is. And nomads, right? Oh, I hate wind powers, man. I hate wind powers in fiction, but thematically, I think it does perfectly fit what Dragon's going for. You know, he is the gentle breeze amongst the hill. But I do agree, base level, though. You know, I think I know where you're coming from. You're saying this because you want Dragon to be strong. And I agree. You know, no matter what Dragon has, whether it's Wind, whether it's Rain God, I want Dragon to be like top 5. Maybe that's asking for too much. You know, maybe I'll say top 10 instead. But I get it, right? The sentiment around Dragon, it's heavy. People have been waiting for this guy for years. Every arc, Dragon's coming. Dragon's coming. The Revs are going to do something. The Revs are going to do something. Almost never. You know, all he does is hit you with the ... So I get it, right? If you are a Dragon fan, you want this guy to be relevant. You want him to be powerful. I understand the sentiment, brother. Rain God is what flooded Old Wano during Joy Boy era, creating the border. Rain God sealed the ancient weapon Pluton in Old Wano when the walls were erected and the land was submerged by rainwater. The Rain God probably has the powers to create borders. I agree with this top part. The last part, not so much, because the borders are Earth related, right? The walls erected around Wano, dirt, rubble, mountains. I think that perhaps instead of it just being due to the Rain God and the Earth God came together to create Wano's situation. The Earth God raised the walls, and then the Rain God brought in the water. I think it was a joint effort. And this does make a lot of sense, by the way, because in Wano, we were laughing our asses off. I don't know if you guys remember, but when we first learned that the water around Wano, at least the immediate waters, are just simply rainwater, and that old Wano got flooded, it's like, okay, how the hell did that happen? How does nobody know about old Wano? Because surely, rainwater rising that high, it would take hundreds of years. Of course, you know, maybe it rains a lot over there and it's pretty quick actually, but in reality, it would take a long time. How does nobody know about old Wano? Well, this could be the solution right here. It's because it didn't take a long time. In fact, the rain god instantly brought a constant downpour. What we thought would take maybe 100 years, in fact, took like a day or a month at most, right? So yeah, I do agree. I do think the rain god, earth god, maybe even the forest god, all worked together to seal off the ancient weapons. This one says, my goat Jimbei, the firefighter, is the real rain god. Imagine that. Yeah, the hidden option, right? Just Jimbei. Oh, he would lose his ability to swim, though. Oh, I don't know. I feel like a fishman eating a devil fruit, that's always way tougher. Because you're just losing, like, half of your abilities, man. You're losing your birthright, man. The man in the drug rug is destined to be the Zaza. Yeah, it's a prophecy. Yeah, the drug rug is like the straw hat for Zaza. Yeah. Believing a dragon in the big 2026. Hey, I'm not even a dragon fan. Actually, dragon is one of my least favorite characters in the series. But I believe in dragon. I have my biases, but whenever I can push my agenda aside and look at the story objectively, dragon will be that guy. Dragon will be important. That's how I feel about Usopp. Usopp is another character I have all the way down there with dragon. And guess what? I still sing the praises, the expectations of all the Usopp fans. I shoulder it on my back, man. I carry that objectively. This says, so perhaps when Rocks mentioned the two devil fruits, it was Loki's and the Hito model Zaza. Dragon's tattoos might not be ink, but a symbol of an awakened devil fruit. I don't think so. At least not for this last part. You know, this top part, I'm cool with it, right? We don't know the second devil fruit that Rocks was after, but we know that Dragon, as a young Marine, had this symbol already, and he didn't have the Zaza devil fruit yet. So I do think it's actually just a tattoo. You know, he's had that symbol for a long time. I wonder what it means, man. I wonder what it means. This comment says, God or goddess? Zaza looks like a goddess. Yeah, I like Zaza. It does remind me of Ronnie from Elden Ring. You know, four-armed blue babe. Yes. Dragon sold me Zaza in Logtown. It has to be him. It's him, I swear. He's the one who sold me the ounce. The man marked by flames with the final poneglyph that makes the whirlpool's not a bad idea. I am so ready for Bellamy the Rain God. I love it, dude. Whenever I just have to put like, hey, mystery character, I do tend to put Bellamy there. You know, I gotta bring back the Bellamy agenda. Oh, dude, I want to pull his ass out of retirement. I was so peeved when he didn't join the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Granted, if Luffy is ever in danger, I do think that Bellamy will come out of retirement. This is such a tangent. You know, Rain God Zaza, Rain God Zaza. By the way, Bellamy Grand Fleet. He took a piece of Luffy's Vivery card. He didn't join the Grand Fleet. He said he did not want to work for Luffy, but he did take a piece of that damn Vivery card. He would show up, man. If they make Dragon a normal dude without a devil fruit, I would be really disappointed. My mans has been hyped up for almost 30 years, so please, Oda, don't do us dirty. All right, hear me out. If Dragon is powerful without a devil fruit, if he has wind abilities without a devil fruit, I'd be kind of hype. I don't know. Snoop Dogg. I could see Dragon having it, dying, and then somebody else getting it. Like Nami. Ooh, Dragon dying. I mean, he did say that Luffy is his greatest weakness. So perhaps Luffy is in a situation where he's going to die and then Dragon takes the blow instead. I don't know if I'd want that. Simply because I feel like we have no Dragon in the story. You know, if we never got to see the Rev's POV, a lot of people wouldn't even notice. Maybe that's slanderous to say, but it's like because of that, I don't want Dragon to die, man. You know, I feel like at that point, he's coming into the story just to die. No. We need more of him. It's funny. We always wondered why Oda never revealed Dragon's devil fruit, even though all the fans kept saying it was the wind fruit. with Zaza's God Fruit, it totally makes sense why he couldn't reveal it earlier. Yeah, this could be part of the reason. Also, we could just say that Dragon was always going to have the Wind Fruit initially, but as the scope of One Piece expanded, he said, you know what? Rain God now. You know, it all works in tandem. It's like Luffy. When Luffy was first introduced into One Piece, like 30 years ago, I don't believe that Oda even thought about Sun God Nika yet. But as time went on, Oda said, you know what? Like, let's play with the Sun God idea. And then decades pass. You know, he's starting to establish the story more and more. He knows where he wants to end it. He's like, you know what? Luffy's now the Sun God. Here we go. And the Dragon, whose powers have always been ambiguous, it's kind of the same thing. Like, oh yeah, I was leaning towards the Wind Fruit. You know, he's always been using wind abilities at Great Terminal, at Logtown, and even in his dialogue, dude. When he was talking to Kuma, he sounds like an anime character. Ah, yes, the winds of fate brought us together. Let the wind guide you back, Kuma. I'm paraphrasing, but he did mention wind like 2 or 3 times. I believe he was always going to have the Wind Fruit initially, but because it's been left in the dark, because Oda's never fully revealed it, yes, he can easily pivot to Rain Goddess Zaza, and it would be acceptable. I think there's nothing wrong with that as well. You know, I know people might take that out of context saying, oh, Sai, what do you mean Oda didn't have that planned? There's nothing wrong with changing your mind, if it makes sense. And for Dragon, Wind, Zaza, Rain, yes, it is a fine pivot in my opinion. If that is the reason why the WG deemed Dragon the most dangerous criminal, at least, then I can understand. Otherwise, he sure can look east menacingly enough. Yeah, the Revs, brother. The Revs, they're just too big. Granted, I wish we got more of the Revs throughout the story. Like, I would have loved to see the impact that the Revs had on islands we visited, where it's like, oh, you know, we go to Water 7, and they mention the Revolutionary Army and how they're helping out a little bit. But in reality, do the Straw Hats, minus Robin, even know about the Revs? I know that's a joke, but still, you know, like, we don't really get that impact. People used to say you were changing the magic dragon when you would smoke the Zaza. So it makes sense to me. My money is on a mythological Zoan that has weather manipulation abilities. Zaza is a good option, but it may be another mythological god. Oh my god. Dude, we're introducing so many gods that it's like, you know what? Maybe Dragon's not even that guy. Maybe Dragon's just a new god. This does relate to a poll we're going to look at here in a minute. But at this point, man, like, we're getting new gods left and right. Between the sea god, the war god, we might still get a moon god. Whew, so many gods, man, so many gods. This next poll begs the question of how will the Rain Goddess Zaza get defeated here in Elbaph? Of course, we gotta remember, this is a fake Zaza, not the real deal. So it isn't going to be as powerful as the OG, but because Killingham has been buffed thanks to Emu's Maki ability, we're expecting Zaza to be an absolute beast. So here we go. I have 4 options on the board. The first one says that the Rain God Zaza and the God Knights actually win. Zaza does not get defeated. And look at that. 8% of voters out there. I know, the minority, the least picked option, but you guys make me proud. Stand tall. The agenda must be maintained. Yes. The Rain God Zaza winning, this is a long shot. You know, when it comes to Elbaph, I want the God Knights to win. I want Emu to successfully make these giants bend the knee. But will that happen? If I were voting in this poll, I wouldn't vote for this. But my heart would. Second option, the Giants and the Straw Hats actually beat Zaza, which we have seen Nightmare Monsters get defeated in the past. Of course, it's tough because Nightmare Monsters are seemingly infinite. Like, whenever the Nightmare Monsters got knocked down earlier, Killingham simply blew his horn, and then they got back up. So there is a chance that this option right here might not be possible at all. But we have seen that the Giants defeated the Sun God Nika Nightmare Monster, where they used the triple general Hakaku sovereignty, and Nika fell out of the clouds with the God Knight's original ship. So it could be possible. I guess it just really depends on option number 3, but Mr. Saint Super Killingham. If Killingham wants Zaza to get back up after the Straw Hats and Giants defeat her, boom, she could probably do it. But this third option says that Killingham actually gets knocked out, gets knocked unconscious, and that is how we get rid of Zaza. We have seen that whenever you defeat a Devil Fruit user, most of the time their abilities get nullified. I believe Zaza and all the Nightmare monsters would be the exact same way. The minute you take out Killingham, they all go bye-bye. So I do think this is pretty solid, and of course this is contingent on Sanji's battle, which we do know Sanji is going to fight him. So I do understand why this option has 63% of the votes. For the final option, it says other. And I gotta apologize, guys. I didn't mean to do that on purpose. I put a picture of Jinbei here because he's a fishman. And I was like, yeah, like maybe this is a great way to just put Jinbei on the spotlight, you know, just have some fun with it, you know, some casual racism. But I believe that a lot of people voted for other, thinking that Jinbei is in this category. He's not. If you want to vote for Jinbei, you should vote for the Giants plus the Straw Hats, because Jinbei is a Straw Hat, guys. But I do think that's my fault because I put his picture here. I probably should have put something else, but yeah, I would almost consider other the same as this one. I would almost just combine them, man. As far as what I would pick, of course, I do lean more towards Killingham getting knocked out because we do know that fight is on the books. We should get a good glimpse of it come next week. And I hope we see Sanji unlock some Conqueror's Haki because you need it to beat a God Knight. They didn't need it initially, but initially Killingham was also a weakling. But now that he has Emu's Monkey, anything is possible. So now into the comment section, let's see what people are saying. First comment says, Jinbei stocks when water or fire is involved. Yeah, see, I think I made a mistake with this, man. But this one says, bro, all the gods used to be in a band. I'm calling it right now. Yes, this is a popular theory because so far, Nika, Drums of Liberation, Zaza, has their own sound effect. It could be a different instrument. And then another great example would be Emu, who came to Elbaph with the Dororo in his own sound effect. So there is a chance that all of the gods did used to be in a band, which sounds crazy, but I do believe in that theory as well. This says Luffy is gonna drink her to wash down the meal. It's crazy because this could actually happen. Luffy just rolls on over and just simply guzzles her up, which kind of crazy to think about, but you know, it is possible. It is possible. And then as far as Jinbei goes, you know, Jinbei could simply swim inside of her. You know, water, devastating power, but somehow easily dealt with. Maybe, you know, Jinbei could simply ocean shoulder throw her off of Elbaph, and would we see her again? Well, okay, if we throw Zaza off of the Atom Tree, I like to imagine Zaza can fly. Emu can fly. Luffy can fly. Zaza has to be able to fly. Oh, Zaza! They're a rain god. They probably have a rain cloud. Kind of like Goku and the flying Nimbus, right? Yeah, the flying Nimbus. I think Zaza travels that way. Which again, you know, could tie back to Nami riding on Zeus. This says, Jinbei victim Oda knew he needed a feat. Yeah. Zoro's going to fight Sommers. Sanji's going to Killingham. Jinbei, he's going to Zaza. Zaza turns on the God Knights. Killingham did not look confident when he said that he could control her. I think this could be interesting. Zaza turns on the God Knights. The only issue is that I think Killingham should be able to simply erase her. Like, it is from his Gelford powers. So if Zaza starts turning against them, I think he could simply snap a finger and she's gone. And plus, Zaza so far has been obeying Killingham. Killingham said, hey, go get the kids. And Zaza did get the kids. So I do think that Killingham has good control over her right now. Maybe this would be cool. But as Sanji starts fighting Killingham, as Killingham starts taking damage, he starts losing control. I think that'd be kind of fun. Kind of like Gecko Moria, how he had Shadows Asgard and he inhaled like 1,000 shadows and he had good control over it. But every time Luffy hit him, he started losing the shadows, losing control of himself. Maybe Killingham will be the same way. But again, you know, surely he could simply just undo Zaza if that starts happening. This says, Jinbei gonna use Barbell's move like Luffy used Red Hawk as a tribute to Ace. You know how fire this would be? Do you know how loud I would be yelling if Jinbei actually did this? Like, oh, my mentor Barbell taught me this ability. Barbell fought the previous god Zaza. Now it's my time. Dude, I'd go ballistic. No, this might be the best theory we've seen so far. 100%. Thank you, man. Just saying, but Usopp still needs his moment. Okay. Usopp fighting Zaza, that wouldn't be bad. And of course, Zaza is kidnapping the Elbaph children. Usopp could be a hero to the kids. And of course, the giants in the Western Village would then end up witnessing God Usopp in action, which could further Usopp's arc here. I would not hate that whatsoever. Only problem is that Usopp is very far. Last we saw, Usopp was nearby Imu, which is near the Owl Library, which is on the opposite end of the branch. But we've seen crazier things, right? If Oda wants a character to be in a specific location, he's gonna put him in that location, right? This says Sanji is gonna send that guy off the island flying with a kick. Perfect time to reintroduce Barbell and Sunbell, if you ask me. Hey, I am down with a third party coming to Elbaph. Whether it's Barbell, Sunbell, Dragon, Shanks, anyone, Kid or Law, bring him in. We need to tag in reinforcements. Not because we need it per se, but because it'll be a lot of fun. Brook is gonna play music and have a rain dance to turn the nightmare into a dream. Ooh. Brook's music, huh? The Drums of Liberation, Emu's theme, Zaza's theme, Brook's music. Maybe that's the next poll. Which music do you guys like the most? This says Luffy is the drums, she's the dancer. It's all coming together. Soul King's ultimate bet. Oh, 2 Brook comments in a row. Okay. Big thing with Brook as well. But on Fishman Island, he was doing the sun god Nika pose right in front of the moon, like what Luffy did in Wano. It's just a sleep tid, but Sanji steams her with his fire legs. I don't know if Sanji be able to do that. Even though it's a sleep tid, I don't know if Sanji could attack a beautiful woman. And let me tell you guys, Zaza's a good looker, man. I don't think Sanji be able to do it. Which, of course, Sanji's probably gonna have his hands full with Killingham anyways, so I do think he won't have to worry about that. Luffy faces it. Killingham, after seeing 2 legendary terrors like Nika and Zaza in the same room, runs for his life. Luffy facing Zaza. I don't think Luffy's coming here. I know we saw this coming earlier. I thought it was a fun idea. But the thing is that Luffy's been mainly talking about Emu, right? He's eating food so that he could have enough energy to fight Emu. If Luffy wastes his energy here on Zaza, be a little bit silly. And plus, his crew is here, right? Luffy is one of those characters where he has undying faith in Zoro, Sanji, Chopper, believe it or not, Usopp, Brook. He believes in his gang. His gang is here. I don't think Luffy is going to fight Zaza at all. In fact, I don't even think Luffy will hear or see Zaza. It's simply going to be dealt with by the other Straw Hats. But that's my own personal opinion with that. It says, Fireman Jinbei steps up. I like how other is Jinbei being the usual plumber. Sanji's love will burn so hot that it'll boil her and defeat her. Let's hope that Zaza can't talk. If Zaza says, Sanji, why are you doing this? He's gonna quit so fast. Barbell, Ned Margaret Flames will enter Elbaph, defeat Zaza, kill Emu, and bring the One Piece for Luffy himself. He is that tough. He is that tough. Rain God Zaza is the perfect match for God Usopp. Other people will likely join in with the blow each, but Usopp will be the one who's the primary opposition to Zaza. This takes me back to when he fought with Perona, with the whole Nightmares theme parallel to Killingham's Devil Fruit. Usopp will scare the nightmare itself. Scare the nightmare itself. Gotcha. He will become Elbaph's new hero-god. Usopp will get a huge moment with Emu because it's Usopp's arc, obviously. I agree with this last part. You lost me in the first 90%, but you got me in the last one. I do think Usopp will do something with Emu. As far as like scaring the nightmare, I don't know. That's going to be a really tough one. When it comes to the nightmare abilities in Usopp, that was a big theory back when it was just Killingham, right? Oh, yes, Usopp's going to fight Killingham. It's going to be great. He'll overcome his own nightmares. But Zaza is so aside from Killingham, I would say, that I can't see Usopp scaring the nightmare. Scaring Killingham or, being a counter to Killingham's Devil Fruit, I'm cool with. But as far as this one, it's kind of hard to imagine. I'm down with it, though. I do think that Usopp will get a moment. Maybe it is here with Zaza. I'm not counting that out. But scaring the nightmare itself, which you put in all caps, I don't believe in this part. Catch me with like certain portions. Gotcha. This one, I don't know. As far as Usopp being Elbaph's new hero-god, I do agree with that, though. As crazy as that sounds. And that's simply because, the whole Uso Land thing. We know that Warland is called Warland for a reason. Maybe Usopp gets a branch named after him. I do believe in Usopp's role here and his legacy. It does remind me somewhat of Skypiea. In Skypiea, Usopp was selling rubber bands. I know it sounds goofy, but rubber bands took off so hard in Skypiea that they created an amusement park. This is canon. They created an amusement park based off of rubber bands that Usopp sold. And guess who was the main guy, the main statue at the front of the park? Usopp. In Dressrosa, who are the 3 heroes that have sculptures in the middle of the island? Luffy, Kyros, and Usopp. I do think that Usopp will leave a lasting mark here in Elbaph. So I agree with that last part, 100%. It's simply the scaring the nightmare itself part where I'm like, I don't know. Zaza turns on him when Sanji starts beating the shit out of him. Yep, Jinbei to shine. Jinbei will hold her off while Sanji deals with killing him. If Nami's not the rain god, Nami beats the rain god. Yeah, Nami being the rain girl, she should be, I guess it wouldn't necessarily mean that she's a counter to Zaza, but perhaps Nami, because of her knowledge, knows how to beat Zaza. Like, hey, she's using rain clouds. Guys, go over there and do X, Y, and Z. Wouldn't be bad. Or maybe Zeus. Zeus could absorb the rain god, which would be interesting. This comment says Jinbei's got it in the back. Okay, yeah. Like I said, I think putting other here was kind of a mistake because it's all just for Jinbei. It's like, guys, Jinbei's a straw hat, man. It's option number 2. I'm sorry, I should have put a different picture. For the last one, last poll, this will be very quick. We're not going to be for too long. Is the sea god that is mentioned in the Harley text supposed to be the rain goddess Zaza? This was a big thing. When the Harley text first dropped, sun god was there, forest god was there, earth god was there, but rain god wasn't. Instead, it was the sea god. And of course, if you know Japanese, sea and rain, different words, right? So it does beg the question, but will we get another god? Is the sea god a brand new character or deity that we're going to meet in the future of One Piece? Catch me during the Harley text chapter, I'd say, maybe not. But now that we know that the war god actually existed, now that we know that Emu is the devil's fruit, yeah, why not? Why not introduce another new god? I do not think that would be super awful. And as you can see right here, 35% of people believe that they are indeed the same god, while 65% say nope, they are simply different ones entirely. This says, I still find it so funny that the gods' names are based on their Japanese onomatopoeias. Just think, if One Piece was made in English, we'd have the sun god, Tee-hee, and the rain god, Pitter Patter. Oh, you're so right. Dude, what is this like for a Japanese reader? Hey, did you see Rain God Pitter Patter? Oh, yeah, I love Pitter Patter a lot. Cool name, huh? Oh, yeah. Does Japan like the name Nika and Zaza? But then again, since they're onomatopoeias, I guess you don't say it that often. It doesn't get brought up in conversations too frequently. So maybe it is detached enough to where it's not insane to say out loud. This says, first god of the sea, Jinbei D Firefighter. Yeah, give him the D now, dude. Jinbei stocks, unironically, have been going up because of Zaza. Jinbei wasn't even in the latest chapter. Jinbei wasn't even there. But the Jinbei stocks are through the effing roof. This says, I believe Zaza is the sea god because of how Nika is depicted in history. Some people call him the warrior of liberation, and others the god of destruction, which depending on the perspective that you're looking at it, both could be true. I think something similar is happening with Zaza. Maybe long ago, there weren't many seas, and so the rain god flooded the world with their rain. That could also explain why there are entire cities at the bottom of the sea. And yeah, that's not bad. This is a very valid way to look at it. Yeah, Zaza having multiple names. The same could be said for the Earth God and Forest God at that point. All right, maybe we have actually heard about the Forest and Earth God, but they simply had different names, like Bellamy. King Neptune called Poseidon the god of the sea, so I think Shirahoshi is the sea god mentioned in the Harley. Ooh, that's not a bad one. I don't remember this exactly, but I mean, it makes sense, right? Poseidon, yeah, god of the sea god Shirahoshi. Yeah, no, that's pretty solid. Yeah, I don't mind it. Yeah, good theories back to back. Look at that. And actually, should I say all good theories back to back? Yeah, can't forget Jinbei D Firefighter, my favorite one. Poseidon, being the Greek god of the sea, could be our easy answer, though if Shirahoshi is the sea god, Oda might be hinting that the devil fruits are not the only way these gods reincarnate. So Vivi and Nami could still be on the table. Ooh, good call to the other poll. Gotcha. Yeah, look at that. The sea god is Vanderdecken's legend is depicted as an old man. Huh? Vanderdecken's legend. Like the first Vanderdecken? And he's depicted as an old man. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not too sure what you're getting at, Lord Frieza, but, you know, we'll put this one in the back pocket, brother. I think they're two different gods, but it's possible they were the same at one point. What if Poseidon, the sea god dash ancient weapon, ate the Zaza fruit back in the Void Century or the First World? Okay, so they were combined many years ago. Gotcha. This says, yeah, I think Zaza is the same sea dash rain goddess. Well, the name at least. The nightmare that Killingham spawned is just an interpretation of the God Knights and the Celestial Dragons. Yes, but the problem with saying this, though, is that we have Skypiea, where they did mention the rain god, and Killingham's also backing up the rain god notion. So that's 2 points on the graph saying that the rain god does exist, whereas we only have one notion of the sea god. I see what you mean, though. I do see what you mean. This says, I feel like the sea god is either Poseidon or the sea goddess who hates devil fruit users. Of course, they could be the same since 4 gods were mentioned in the Harley and Skypiea, with the only one different being the rain and sea gods. Maybe there could have been more than 4 gods that lived in the first world, since we already have the god of war, and Pluton is named after the god of the underworld, and is another name for Hades, so who knows, yeah? At this point, Oda could deadass start a whole pantheon. Bring in every single god. Yeah, in the first world, they were all just hanging out, man. They were this giant band. I think Zaza is straight up fictional nightmare fuel for kids. Didn't it already exist in the One Piece world? Oh, so like it never existed. The rain god never existed at all? Again, you know, I don't think this would be awful, but we also have like Skypiea, right? Skypiea Shandorans also believed in the rain god. If it was just Killingham, well, then again, no. Killingham's just not a kid, though, right? You know, if it was just a kid in Elbaph, I'd be like, okay, yeah, maybe it's like a scary story you hear about. Like the Draugr, what was another one that was like really funny? Like Fenrir, right? Like all these other monsters the kids are thinking and imagining. But Killingham, he's a god knight. He's getting educated by Emu or whoever is up there, you know, teaching history lessons. And yeah, it's skewed. Yeah, it's propaganda. But I do think they have knowledge that the average person in One Piece doesn't actually have. So I'd say the rain god did exist. I believe they were actually there. This says the sea god would have been Davy Jones. No, maybe in Pirates of the Caribbean, maybe in real world fiction. That wouldn't be bad. But as far as the sea god being Davy Jones, there's nothing really pointing at it minus that. But that is a decent theory. Not a lot to build it off of, but it is there. It is there. I want to say that they're the same deity, but mentioned in different references via Destroyer-Liberator, but knowing our madman behind the ink Oda, it could be either one or something completely different, but it still hits the subject mark, yeah. And that's how I feel. You know, when it comes to this, I do think they're different gods, but if they're not, if they're simply the same, and like everybody's been saying, right, it's simply a different nickname, I'm cool with that too, brother. But with that being said, let me know your thoughts on all of the Zaza chatter down below. I'd love to hear all those thoughts and opinions. And of course, hopefully, you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. I really freaking appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out and stay safe, brothers.